Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 59th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 59, Expo Part 2. Rolls smirked as she gracefully turned around and headed back to the stage. Her little display of power finished. It felt nice to let loose once in a while. Holding back was such a drag at times. Plus showing off a bit couldn't hurt. It was just a bunch of robots anyway. Crushing them all in a second was as easy as breathing. She looked up at Izumi and her friends. They seemed surprised by her display of power. Well, to be fair, she was holding back a lot during her internship. So it felt nice to go all out like this, to let loose, as her sister would say. Well, it wouldn't hurt to show off a little bit more, she thought. She stopped. Moments later, a pair of red wings made from pure energy unfurled from her back. With a single flap, she shot up towards the stand and landed gracefully, her wings vanishing as she straightened herself out. Izumi and her friends' eyes were wide open in surprise. No doubt they weren't expecting that. Then again, very few do. Well, all but one of them looked surprised. Angel Airy said, a look of wonder and curiosity in her eyes. Rolls chuckled. I can assure you, I am no angel. Even though you look like one, Himiko remarked. Seriously girl, where were you hiding those things during the internship? They weren't exactly necessary, Rolls replied. They only allow me to jump higher and slow down my descent. I can't fly with them like hawks. I see, Izumi said, notebook in hand. That was quite an interesting aspect of her abilities. But how does having psychic abilities give her the power to manifest wings? Izumi, I thought you said her quirk was telepathy, telekinesis, and mind reading? Momo asked. I did, Izumi replied. Those wings are a manifestation of my, psychic ability, Rolls finished. Quirks are weird like that, giving you all kinds of odd and conflicting stuff at times. Most of the girls simply nodded. Quirks were bullshit after all. Achiko, meanwhile, looked at Rolls with shock and wonder. I will be able to do that? She wondered. That, and so much more, Rolls said, sending a private telepathic message to Achiko. Your quirk may give you a slight edge, but your mind will be your most powerful weapon, Marietta. Achiko gave her a grumpy look. Please stop calling me that. My name is Achiko, not Marietta. Rolls, another female voice said as a girl walked up behind Rolls. Making friends already? The girl had rather pale skin with thin, somewhat cat-like bluish lavender eyes, and long straight periwinkle hair. She had a golden monocle over her left eye, with a chain hanging off one side. She too wore the uniform of CI Academy. Psycho, Rolls said with a smile before turning back to the rest of the group. Ladies, gentlemen, and one robot. Meet my girlfriend, Psycho Intelli. Greetings, Psycho said with a polite bow. It is nice to finally meet you girls in person. Hey Psycho, Chiharu added with a wave. Been a while, hasn't it? Indeed it has, Psycho said before turning towards Izumi. And you must be Izumi. It's finally nice to meet you in person. Talking to you in a chat room doesn't quite compare to talking to someone face to face. Well, you were added to our group chat by Rolls, who was added by Himiko without consulting anyone else, Izumi said. Honestly, it's a bit worrying. Yes, I can see why that would be an issue. Having someone you don't know added to a private chat room like that. Not exactly the best way to make a first impression, Psycho said with a slight frown. Well, I hope I can earn your trust and friendship during the expo. I must say though, I see the adorable bunny comments Midnight made about you during the sports festival weren't unfounded. Izumi sighed. I'm never going to stop getting called that. Izumi, you're the one who put Bunny EARS on your original hero costume. Durandal said. They were meant to resemble All Might's hair tufts. Izumi said, sounding a bit annoyed. Should have made them yellow then, Momo remarked. Rib bit, and made the smile on your mask a bit more noticeable, Sue added. I think you should just stick with the rabbit motif you've accidentally got going here, Ochako said. Izumi sighed. She just could not win. Looks like she'll be stuck as an adorable bunny. She could see why Midnight gave them a warning about how they. So, are you going to introduce me to these people? Melissa asked. And you are? Psycho asked. Oh, I'm Melissa Vero Shield, Melissa said with a polite bow. Roll's eyes shot wide open. She's a Vero. Well, fuck me. In both a good and bad way. Psycho meanwhile, who had no idea about Roll's internal panic, simply smiled. Well, it's nice to meet you, Melissa, she said before she side-eyed Rolls. Rolls, introduce yourself. Oh, right. Sorry, Rolls said. I am Rolls-Royce Phantom. Rolls-Royce Phantom? Melissa fought with a frown. Might as well put a big neon sign above your head. Well, it's nice to meet you. So, I know you're all getting aqua-ted and all that jazz, but can we get back to the villain attack please? Himiko asked, getting slightly annoyed. Yeah, she kind of has a point there, Sue said. We were about to decide who was about to go next before you kind of dominated the field by crushing all of the robots in less than a second, ribbit. That is some absurd level of telekinesis you got there. Seriously girl, are you sure you're human? Roll sighed whilst Psycho chucked. I'm never going to stop getting asked that, aren't I? Now you know what I feel like getting called a bunny all the time, Izumi said with a frown. Yeah, I see what you mean, Roll said. And yes, you are right, I did kind of butt in out of the blue. My apologies for getting in the way. Oh, that's okay, Izumi said. I kind of forgot you two were coming here. If you want, you can stay with us whilst we go through the villain attack, Momo said. More the merrier. Sure, Psycho said with a smile. We can get to know each other better. The next 15 minutes were spent with everyone going through the villain attack. Momo used an excessive amount of cannons, Tuss went full frog on the robots, Ochako made herself weightless and zipped around, Himiko did kind of the same, but with her maneuver gear, Mei, who had the same problem as Izumi and couldn't start wearing Isaac, used her railgun and maneuver boots to move around quickly, and Chiharu used her Chiharu flattener to blast the robots since due to the terrain, she couldn't just lay mines beneath the targets. Most of them had good times, but, naturally, none of them were able to beat Roll's time. Or Izumi's time for that matter. Only Ochako got close with 11 seconds. Melissa watched them all compete, watching how they used their quirks and support equipment to defeat the villain bots. She could already picture what support equipment she could make them. Of course, a few of those ideas included things that she probably shouldn't be putting into support equipment. Mother would be oh so pissed off if she did that. Eri meanwhile watched them with excitement, her big sister and her girlfriends were so cool. Overhaul wasn't going to stand a chance when they beat him up. So, who are you? Psycho asked as she crouched down next to Eri. Eri replied. Oh, another telepath, Rolls remarked. I'm surprised. I didn't expect to meet someone with a similar quirk to me. One small question, young one. Why do you only speak with your telepathy? My vocal cords were removed to stop me from crying, Eri replied. Izumi sighed as a familiar look of anger appeared on Psycho and Roll's faces. Of course she would tell them. She should really tell her to stop telling people someone removed her vocal cords to stop her from crying. The number of people on board the overhaul murder train was starting to get excessive. Seriously, she was considering converting the train to a ship. Izumi, you wouldn't mind telling me who did this to Eri? Rolls asked, I have some friends who would like to meet them. I'm going to need some spiced apple cider tea, Psycho said, looking at her phone. Why spiced apple cider tea? Izumi asked. Because with that tea, I can apply explosive properties on things I touch, Psycho replied with a sadistic smile. Oh, that's a bit like my mother's quirk, Chiharu said. Eri meanwhile was just watching the chaos unfold. Somewhat happy that there would be more people there to beat up Overhaul. She'd have to ask Big Sis if she could record the fight. Young as she was, ever since she was rescued, resentment and anger was slowly building up inside of her. All those times Overhaul ripped her apart and put her back together incorrectly, hurt. It still hurts. Whenever she used her non-curse abilities it hurt. And she wanted him to pay for that. Remember, young one. Don't let anger consume you, the friendly voice said. It'll be far too easy for one like you to lash out at those who are undeserving of such punishment. I'm trying, Eri thought, shuddering slightly. But, he hurt me. I just want someone to hurt him back. I'm sorry. It's all right, young one. He will get what's coming to him, the voice said. This I promise you. Eri smiled as Momo returned to the group. That was great, Momo, Izumi said with a smile, trying to ignore the enraged looks on Rolls and Psycho's faces. But, was it necessary to make that many cannons? Izumi, you know me, Momo said with a smirk. If you want to make sure someone stays down, cannons are the only way to go. Most of the group sweat dropped. And did your father teach you that? Inesa asked, sounding slightly worried. No, Momo replied. That would be my uncle. He helped me immensely with my creations, and how to wield a baseball bat like nunchucks. My dad taught me multiple fighting styles, how to beat a man with a plunger, and the serious business that is pocket racing. Pocket racing? The girl said, sounding confused. Oh yeah, I know of that, May said. Got banned from most places that do them due to illegal modifications to my cars. Or maybe it was because they kept exploding. Figures, Durandal remarked. Of course they would explode. So, now that we've done the villain attack, where to next? Himiko asked, excited for the next activity. Oh, well there's all kinds of things to do, Melissa said. The villain attack is just one of many activities that you can do here. There's an obstacle course, racetrack, robot fighting arena. Robot fighting arena. May said, zipping up to Melissa. Take us there. I'm afraid this will be where we have to leave you lot be, Psycho said. We have a prior commitment with a friend. But, I'm sure we'll catch up with you later at the party. Oh, okay, Izumi said. We'll see you later then. Indeed we will, Psycho said before she and Rolls bowed and walked off. The group watched the two girls walk off. Once they were out of earshot, Sue croaked. Am I the only one here who's suspicious of Rolls? Why would you be suspicious of her? Melissa asked. No reason, Sue replied, realizing that she couldn't really say that Rolls' powers were suspiciously like Aries' non-quirk abilities whilst Melissa was around. She wasn't in the know after all. Achiko shook her head. She had a feeling she was going to have to tell the group the truth sooner rather than later. Because some of them were starting to get suspicious. Not of her of course, but of others like her. Anyway, next activity. May said with a smile. 5 minutes later. May beamed at the sight of the robot fighting arena, stars in her eyes. The arena resembled the inside of a small factory and currently had 2 robots about the same size as the UA Sentinels fighting each other. This is so awesome. May said, smiling maniacally. Why do you have this? Sue asked. This doesn't really show off our abilities. It's to show off your creativity and planning, Melissa replied. It's more designed for the support students, like me. The rules are simple. You have 10 minutes to design a robot using pre-made components and have it go up against a robot designed by a random competitor. There are quite a lot of options to go for: legs, arms, body, head, arms, weapons, and AI behavior. May started to laugh maniacally. Yes. This is exactly my kind of event. I can design so many babies. Where do I sign up? Over there, Melissa said, pointing towards a booth with a small queue in front of it. Be warned though, it can take upwards of half an hour before your robot gets deployed and she's gone, she said, noticing May had zipped over towards the booth. She really couldn't resist the opportunity to design a robot, couldn't she? Chiharu said with a sigh. Looks like it, Melissa said before turning to face the group. So, does anyone else want to give it a go? I'll have to decline, Inesa said. I know nothing about designing a robot. Same, Himiko said. I'm more about stabbing things than building things. You should give it a go, Izumi, Achiko said. I'm sure a smart girl like you would be able to design an effective combat robot. Are you sure? Izumi asked nervously. I'm not really a robot designer. Yes, but you are super smart, Achiko said, tapping Izumi on the head. I'm sure all that quirk knowledge in that head of yours can help you design a robot. Plus it'll be fun. Izumi thought about it for a few moments. Sure, it did sound like it would be fun. To design a robot and have it go up against a random opponent that was also made by someone else. Sounds like fun. Alright, I'll give it a go, Izumi said before she went off to join Mei in the queue. Once she signed on, she was directed to a nearby tent with several tablets resting on tables. Each tablet was tied to the table with thick, strong cables so that no one could steal them. Izumi picked up the tablet and looked through the options available to her. Melissa was right, there were a lot of options. You could almost make any kind of robot here. There were even customization options, a lot of customization options. She could see why you only had a 10-minute time limit to design a robot. Left unattended you could be here for hours. Anyway, going over what options she had, she quickly designed her robot. She forgot guns of any kind, meaning she didn't have to worry about stuff like ammo. She was going for a close combat build. Something fast enough to close the distance with the enemy quickly, but strong enough to be able to kick them into a wall and take a few hits. She added a few cosmetic options as well to personalize it a bit more. She wanted this thing to look cool after all. Once she finalized the design and gave her creation a name, she sent it off to be made. She then put the tablet down and returned to the others to wait for her robot to show up. Predictably, Mei's robot appeared first, after about 20 minutes of waiting. A bulky four-legged robot with Gatling guns for arms, and a single heavy cannon on its shoulder. Its name was Robert. Why did you name it Robert? Momo asked. I named it after Robert Heinlein, a sci-fi author, Mei replied. Just like I named Isaac after Isaac Asimov. I like to have some level of consistency with my more robotic babies. Plus I like sci-fi stuff. The announcer then announced Robert's opponent. The Excelsior, a rather thin robot with blades for arms. And an ungodly color scheme and way too many cosmetics. That's what my baby has to fight? Mei said, sounding disappointed. That thing looks like it'll be able to withstand much punishment. Yeah, but it looks entirely agility focused, Izumi remarked. One good hit from Robert's cannon and it'll be done for. If it can hit, that is. Excelsior is going to be a slippery thing to hit. The announcer started the match, and the two robots started to move. The Excelsior charged forwards, making a beeline towards Robert. In a straight line. Not even trying to use the large amount of cover around it. Robert meanwhile just aimed its cannon at it and fired, destroying the Excelsior in one shot. Well, that was disappointing, Mei said, looking very disappointed. It didn't even try to dodge. I think they just went with an aggressive AI for that one, Izumi said. A too aggressive AI. Yeah, looks like it, Melissa said, shaking her head. Clearly, someone's never designed a robot before. I'm going to be having words with whoever designed that thing, Mei said. Who makes a robot based around agility, but does not program it to be able to dodge? Whoever made Excelsior apparently, Sue said bluntly. Well, hopefully, the one Izumi's robot goes up against is better designed, Chihara remarked. I hope so, Izumi said before they waited for Izumi's robot to come out. They didn't have to wait long, only 6 or so minutes before the announcer announced her robot. Mecha Yusako. Izumi beamed as her robot rose up out of the ground. Mecha Yusako was, sort of, based off of herself. A green robot built to move quickly and kick hard. No unnecessary features like guns, but there was an energy blade on the right arm. And, unlike Excelsior, she hadn't gone for pure speed. Mecha Yusako could take a good few hits whilst remaining fast enough to avoid most gunfire. Plus its AI was aggressive but defensive. It would seek to get close to the enemy but do so in a way that wouldn't leave it open to attack. Hopefully, it'll be using cover during the fight and not run towards the enemy. She also made it green, like her hero costume, and gave it bunny ears. Because she's completely given up calling them tufts of hair. Did you really call the robot Mecha Yusako? Achiko asked, a smirk hidden behind her mask. Well, I didn't know what else to name it, Izumi replied. Besides, I based it off of myself. Of course you would do that, Achiko said with a smile. The announcer then announced her robot opponent. Wolfheimer, a robot designed like a wolf with sharp claws and a chain gun on its back. Well, isn't this ironic, Durandal remarked. The robot version of the hero who has a robot wolf is up against a robot wolf. Predator versus angry prey, Momo remarked. It'll be an interesting fight, that's for sure. As long as the AIs are competent, that is. Yes. Inasa said loudly. I am so hyped for this. I just hope Big Sister's robot wins, Eri said. Knowing Izumi, her bot will give the other one a run for its money, Durandal said. Melissa turned towards Durandal with a shocked look on her face. Wait, you can hear her? Yep, Durandal replied with a nod. Not sure why I can hear what she says telepathically. She can even hear my thoughts. Somehow. A telepath who can read the mind of a machine? But that's unheard of, Melissa thought. Izumi, you need to keep that part of her powers a secret. There are people who would happily kill to get their hands on her. The announcer started the match, and the two robots started to move. Mecha Yusako moved behind some large machinery as Wolfheimer charged forward, its back-mounted chain gun tracking and firing at Mecha Yusako. Mecha Yusako kept to cover as much as possible, only breaking cover for short periods of time to get closer to Wolfheimer. The wolf robot wasn't making it easy since it too was moving around, keeping to the wide open spaces as much as possible. Wolfheimer looks to have a similar AI to Mecha Yusako, but is reacting differently, Izumi observed, making the motions that she was writing something down in a notebook, yet she wasn't holding one. Wolfheimer is keeping to the open areas, knowing that being close to cover means that Mecha Yusako will have less distance to travel to reach it. Melissa, these robots are amazing. Melissa smiled. Thank you, Izumi. I worked hard developing them. You programmed the AI behavior programs. May said, zipping over to her. Melissa nodded. Yep. It was part of a project my class was working on. So cool. Eri said, watching as the two robots continued to fight. Mecha Yusako kept moving from cover to cover, avoiding Wolfheimer the best it could. But, it knew it couldn't stay in cover forever. Sooner or later it will have to close the gap and strike. Steam started to leave Wolfheimer's chain gun, indicating that it had overheated. Mecha Yusako used the opening to charge forward, jumping up and kicking the other robot in the face. Wolfheimer was quick to retaliate, swiping at Mecha Yusako with its claws several times, cutting a few deep gashes into it and cutting off its left arm. Wolfheimer then charged forward, aiming to cut off the other robot's head. Mecha Yusako turned, activated its energy blade and swung, cutting a deep gash into Wolfheimer's side. But, the other robot was still functional. And its chain gun just finished cooling down. Mecha Yusako only had a second to run to cover before Wolfheimer began firing again. This time, due to the damage it had sustained, Mecha Yusako took several hits before it could get into cover. Izumi frowned, her robot wasn't doing well. She was thinking that maybe she should have gone for a more armor body, but that would have reduced its speed. Mecha Yusako rushed around the forge it was using for cover, coming out the other side and charged once more, with Wolfheimer charging back. The two robots swiped at each other, cutting deep into the other and rending metal and wires. But one cut deeper. Wolfheimer fell to the floor, its body sliced in half. Mecha Yusako stood over the remains of Wolfheimer. Sparks coming out of its heavily damaged, but still functional body. Yes. Ochako beamed. Glad that Izumi's robot had won. Izumi sat there, wide-eyed. "And my robot won," she said, surprised by her robot's victory. It was a close fight, yes, but she had expected her robot to lose. Wolfheimer looked like a much better machine than her Mecha Yusako. Yeah. That was so hot-blooded. Inasa said loudly, grinning. Izumi, Mei said, zipping over to the girl. "Tell me what configuration you used to make that. Mecha Yusako has given me so many ideas." "Well, that was quite the impressive robot you designed there, Yusako," a voice spoke in German off to the side. Izumi turned towards the voice, understanding the language. Off to the side stood two students about their age. One was a tall young man with yellow eyes and short amber hair, wearing a dark yellow armored bodysuit with black tinted goggles. The other was a tall and curvaceous girl with long red hair, red eyes, and had a pair of leathery wings on her back as well as a tail. Wearing a black leotard that was strained against her bust, black boots, and long gloves. Harold Blitzen, aka the speed hero, Blitzkrieg. And Astrid Korver, aka the alluring hero, Teufelsmädchen. Two students from Millennium Academy. Izumi did what she did best, and instantly went into fangirl mode. She beamed at like 1,000 words per second. She then zipped over to them, notebook in hand. "Can I have your autographs?" The two German students looked at Izumi with confused looks on their faces. "You are German? Or English? Something that's understandable?" Astrid asked, looking rather confused. "I know Japanese, but I didn't understand a word of that," Harold remarked. "Yep, that's Izumi for you," Nijire said, popping out of nowhere. The two German students jumped. "Who the fuck are you?" Harold blurted out. "And when did you get here?" Nijire smirked. "I was always here." "Nijire, I didn't know you spoke German," Izumi remarked. "Also, why are you here?" Nijire smiled. "There's a lot you don't know about me. Also, Ryukyu asked me to do some networking whilst I'm here." "Japanese, please?" "For those of us who don't understand foreign languages, ribbit," Suzu said. "Ah, right," Harold said in Japanese, but with a heavy German accent. "My apologies, I forgot German isn't a common language in Japan. I'm hoping you guys know who I am?" "Yes, you're Harold Blitzen, also known as Blitzkrieg. Denki's cousin," Momo said. "He mentioned you a few times, as has Izumi here," she said, pointing at the vibrating girl. Harold smiled. "Well, I'm glad my cousin hasn't forgotten about me," he said. "Oh, and this is my girlfriend, Astrid Korver." "Guten Tag," Astrid Korver said with a slight bow. "But you can call me by my hero name if you like, Teufelsmädchen." "Devil Girl," Durandal remarked. "Odd name for a hero." "Well, I am basically a succubus," Astrid said, twirling her tail in between her fingers. "There are not many names I could use, with the only good ones already being taken." "Understandable," Izumi said with a nod. "With so many heroes out there, a lot of names are already in use. Coming up with an original hero name can be difficult at times." "A fucking greed," Harold said. "Some of my classmates spent hours working on hero names because the ones they wanted were taken. Then again, most of them aren't exactly creative." "Didn't you struggle with coming up with a hero name?" Astrid asked. "That was because Flash, Zoom and Quicksilver were no-goes due to belonging to fictional heroes," Harold replied with a grumpy frown. "Yes, Denki did mention that," Momo said. Harold sighed. "Of course he told his friends about that." "Well, you do tell everyone back at school all of Denki's embarrassing secrets," Astrid said. "Only fair that he does the same." "Oh, believe me, he told us a lot about you," Sue said. "Like the number of walls you smashed though, ribbit." Astrid chuckled. "Seems like they got everything down. I must say, you girls are all quite cute." Especially you, Yusako. She's taken, Achiko said, pulling a blushing Izumi back towards her. Sorry, we're all taken, Nijire added with a smile, with most of the other UA girls nodding. I am? Momo said before Nijire zipped over and put an arm around her. Okay, apparently I am. She was completely okay with this outcome. Harold sighed. Astrid, please stop trying to flirt with other people. You know I'm uncomfortable with the idea of dating multiple people. Sorry, but I got to flirt. It's just a part of who I am, Astrid said. But don't worry, you're the only one I truly love. Which is all I need to hear, Harold said with a smirk. He then turned towards Izumi. So, Yusako, I'm guessing you are the one who made Mecha Yusako? Izumi rubbed the back of her head nervously. Yep, that's me. Couldn't really come up with a better name, so I just made a robot version of myself. Why do you ask? Well, my friend Kleiner wanted to talk to you, Harold said. Kleiner? Izumi asked, sounding confused. Harold and Astrid parted, revealing a girl standing behind them. She was a short girl who was shorter than Izumi. She had long, messy black hair and red eyes and wore a black and gray wolf onesie that covered her entire body, save for her face. But was holding a large wolf plush in front of her face. Hello, the girl said nervously. Good lord, this girl is adorable. Almost everyone not from Germany thought. Oh, I recognize you now. You're the mystic hero, Wolf, Izumi said, stepping closer slightly. Kleiner yelped as she hid her face more behind her wolf plush. Why yes. That's me, she stuttered nervously. I am the one who am made Wolfheimer. Your Bebot was very WWLDDD designed. It wasn't the best design, Izumi said. Your robot was so much cooler. I'm just surprised that my won. All I did was make a robot focus on close combat. ISSC, Kleiner said nervously. I have Tito SSA, why you have QQ quite the an interesting QQ quirk, Yusako. It's a SS strength EN enhancer, right? Well, sort of, Izumi said. It's actually an energy stockpiling quirk. I can mostly use my stockpiled energy to overall enhance my body, but recently I've learned to use that energy for other things. My quirk has a lot of moving parts to it. Kleiner's eyes seemed to sparkle as a notebook appeared on one of her hands. What else can you do with your quirk? How do you gain energy? Does using your quirk deplete your stockpile? She asked, bombarding Izumi with questions. Izumi blinked a few times in confusion. Why you like analyzing quirks? Kleiner shivered. Why yes, she replied nervously. Izumi's eyes sparkled. Hey, I like analyzing quirks as well. The sparkle in Kleiner's eyes quickly returned. Why you do? Izumi nodded. Yep. She said, before going on a tangent on quirks, with Kleiner quickly joining it. Everyone's sweat dropped as the two started talking at great speed about quirks, their words barely understandable to anyone. Oh god, she found another one. Harold and Achiko sweat dropped as the two. Okay, you two, Momo said as she got in between them. You can gush about quirks later. Kleiner let out a disappointed sigh and hid her face a bit more behind the wolf plush she was holding. And who's this little cutie pie? Astrid asked as she knelt down next to Eri and patted her on the head. Eri replied. A telepath quirk, Kleiner remarked. That's quite interesting. You only you use it to talk? My vocal cords were removed to stop me from crying, Eri replied. An almost murderous aura formed around Kleiner. I'm going to maul the one responsible for this. She growled. Okay, Harold said, looking at his friend with a worried look on his face. Kleiner's is pissed. I've never seen her so mad before, Astrid remarked. But, then again, we've never met a cute, adorable girl who had her vocal cords removed by a dead man walking. But we probably should have seen this coming, considering who her father is. Izumi sighed. Yep, she was going to have to upgrade the train to a ship, because this was starting to get ridiculous. She was also going to have to stop Eri from telling people what happened to her vocal cords. You know, Eri sort of has an army at her beck and call right now, Himiko remarked. Considering the number of people she's managed to get on board the overhaul murder train. I think it's more like a ship now, Achiko remarked. Can I just introduce Eri to new people without her making them want to attack Overhaul for harming her? Izumi wondered. I don't think that's possible, Achiko said. Izumi sighed. Sorry about her. Eri's a ward of UA and has been through a lot. My mother is looking after her on their behalf. I see, Harold said. Well, I hope she's being cared for by your mothers. It sounds like Eri's been through hell. Oh, don't worry, my mother wouldn't dream of harming her, Izumi said. The people who hurt her, however, wouldn't be treated to the same niceties. Anyway, ignoring that downer, Nijire said. Who's hyped for the party later? Ah yes, the party, Harold said. Almost forgot about that. Shame Denki won't be there, but not everyone can be invited to it. Well, it is a big and important party, Melissa said. I know, I've been to them before, Harold said. Not exactly my cup of tea, but I get to meet people who may be useful to know in the future. So, they serve some purpose. Anyway, we should be going, Astrid said. We need to get ready for the party. We'll see you later, she said before she and Harold departed. I'll see catch YYUL later TT then, Yusako, Kleiner said before she rushed off. Izumi smiled as she waved them off. It was nice to meet someone who liked analyzing quirks as much as she did. Ribbit. So, it's going to take us a while to prepare for the party, Sue said. What time should we meet up for it? 5 should be a good time to meet up, Momo said. The party would have started by then, but nothing important should have happened by then. Even with All Might being there. Well then, we'll see you all at 5 then, Nijire said before she put her arms around Momo, Sue and Himiko and zipped off with them. Well, that was odd, Shiharu said before she was dragged off by Mei. I see you later then, Inasa said before he used a small whirlwind to shoot himself off into the distance. And there goes everyone else, Durandal remarked. Why can't we just depart like normal people? Hey, Izumi, Achiko, Melissa said as the others walked off. If it's alright, I'd like to show you something before the party. Sure, but we'll have to drop Eri off with my mother first, Izumi said. That's okay, Melissa said. It's getting late anyway, and I don't want to get in trouble for bringing a small child somewhere she shouldn't be. Izumi smiled before she crouched down next to Eri. Hey, Eri. You okay with being left with Inko? Eri nodded. The young girl was feeling tired. Today had been fun, but Big Sis was going to do adult stuff, and she didn't want to get in the way of them. Plus, Mama Inko was nice and kind. Izumi smiled as they made their way towards the apartment Inko was using. Today has so far been fun, exciting, and peaceful. Oh, so very peaceful. Hopefully, it stayed that way. Good news. We're all set on our end. Everyone's in position, and no one suspects a thing. Good. And our inside man? He's fulfilled his end of the bargain. Now all we have to do is wait to execute the plan. With any luck, we'll have what we need by daybreak. But, we may have a problem, All Might is here. Don't worry about him, we took precautions to deal with him. Proceed as planned. If you pull this off, there'll be more than your old position waiting for you. Don't worry. That device is as good as ours. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 60. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.